Hello again. All right. So we've been talking a lot recently about database design, and we've been doing this with our entity relationship diagrams, our entity relationship design process. Um, I want to say one thing before we do anything else is that there's a really good news actually, and I'll come back to this, but entity relationship design tends to create very good databases. So, mastering entity relationship design is probably the most fundamental database design skill, or even the most practical one that you can have. So, to really start to think about things with entities and the relationships between those entities, and then turning that into a schema, you're likely, if you're really working hard to model the system and paying attention to the way that the data should naturally behave and how it should be interrelated, you're very, very likely to make a very good database design. Now, it is possible that you might make a mistake. And so that's where this material comes into play. So I hesitate to say this is all required reading. All right. What I tend to think is more along the lines of required is let's try to pay attention to our lecture here. And this is one of those lectures where I think you're going to get most of what you need from the lecture, at least in a practical sense. Okay. But you might go, I didn't quite get what you meant. I need another example. I want to see some examples, or I really want to see how it's written and explained. And that's when you should absolutely positively turn to this written material. And I think there's a nice progression actually to follow, which is you can go to chapter 7 and head first SQL. And partway through that chapter, the part that starts even superheroes can be dependent. So from that section to the end of the chapter gives a really nice introduction in very understandable terms with lots of examples about what are called functional dependencies and normal forms. And that will take you up through what's known as third normal form. Now, so I find that to be a good read, and it's quite understandable. We're gonna at the moment. I don't think the next step actually is probably chapter 7 in DSC. It's actually, for me, it's been chapter 19 of Ramakrishnan and Gurke, which is known as the Cow Book. And let me show you the cover of this. Why it's called the Cow Book. So as you can see, there's a book. There's cows on it. This book is the author is originated from Wisconsin. Gurke went to Cornell after I believe he was in graduate school at Wisconsin. And then Wisconsin's known for having a very big database research group. And but then Gurke Miner's, last I saw, he's super high-ranked, powerful person at Microsoft. I apologize for not actually knowing where Ramakrishnan is at right now. Could be retired for all I know. I'm not actually part of the database community, so I don't truly know tons about. But I find this part of the book to be quite understandable. And I'll be honest, there's another thing that probably, if you do chapter 7, head first SQL, you look at chapter 19, and then there on YouTube, there's a series of videos. You can find them at the Stanford DB class or course. And these are videos by Jennifer Whittam, who is one of the world's experts on databases. She talks really fast. These have been very carefully edited videos, so there's no dead space as well. She speeds through things, but she covers it and explains things very well. And so she has a set of videos. Once we get through this, you'll be able to recognize these topics. But basically, she talks about functional dependencies. So there's a bunch of videos on functional dependencies and database design. Then she moves on and she talks about Boyce-Codd normal form. And then she talks about fourth normal form. And all of these videos are, if I recall, they're preceded like 07, like they were week 7 or something. Again, everything seems to be 7s here for this material. I can probably post links to these videos in Learn if you wanted to watch them. There's probably 3 lectures worth of material in the Stanford Databases course. And again, and then in chapter 7 of our textbook, it's really sort of this beginning portion, section 7.1, 7.2, and then these first parts, 3 subsections of section 7.3, and then skipping over to 7.8 and 7.9. 7.8 and 7.9 are actually a lot more practical, sort of heads up, let's talk about database design. If I was to do my reading, I might look at the beginning stuff enough to get a feel for it and think yourself back up with what I'm talking about here. Definitely I'd read 7.8 and 7.9. One of them's about first normal form and atomic values, and it's good to look at that. We've mentioned it before. All right, so there's a whole bunch of stuff potentially that this is where I'm drawing from a lot of what this lecture is going to be based upon. Okay, so let's try to get into this lecture, cover the material, and move on. So we can make mistakes with our entity relationship diagrams. Is there a way so we have a sense of what's the quality of our database design? And the answer is, from the database people, oh, sure, absolutely. We'll tell you whether you got a good design from sort of a theoretical standpoint. And so we've already talked about this notion of first normal form. And again, to be in first normal form, you have all of your relations. They've got a primary key, and all of your attributes are atomic. And that's just good basic modeling. And that's what we need to have to do relations anyway. All right. So everything that's in first normal form sorry, let me say it backwards. I gotta get this right. Let's start from the inside. There's a fifth normal form, and apparently there's like also a sixth, but it doesn't seem to be talked about much. But fifth normal form, everything that's in fifth normal form is also inside of fourth normal form, and so it's also fourth normal form. All of that stuff is also Boyce-Codd normal form, which is also all third normal form, which is all second normal form, which is all first normal form. The real thing to note, I think, rather than this, oh, this is that, basically is that you start off and you say, yeah, I know my tables, my relations are first normal form. Oh, for me to get to second normal form, I have to satisfy another property. Then to go from second normal form to third normal form, I have to satisfy another property, and so forth and so on. In other words, basically it's, let me look at my tables. Oh, do I got primary keys and atomic attributes? Check, first normal form. Ooh, I want to see, do I meet the criteria for second normal form? Let's check to see what I have to do there. Do I see any of those problems? None of those. Oh, I must be in second normal form, and so forth and so on. I can't resist. I'm going to skip ahead. The book says on page 344 in section 7.91, it says, indeed, the process of creating entity relationship design and entity relationship design tends to generate fourth normal form designs. It's like, whoa. So they do all this material in chapter 7, and then they get to 7-9, and they go, and you might have noticed that all the examples that we had to use prior in this chapter are things that we wouldn't have made if we had done entity relationship design. And that's because often when we do entity relationship design, and we do it well, and we're careful, we'll end up actually with something that's fourth normal form. And that's really sort of the, if you watch the Jennifer Wyndham videos, that's sort of the last practical level of database quality to reach. So I think part of the thing is what we're going to do and talk about now is this progression. And then that's going to be things that then you can make your entity relationship diagrams, do this designing. As you do it, keep in the back of your mind, I think the big thing is probably keep in mind this Boyce-Codd normal form when we'll get to it, and you'll go, oh yeah, I've designed, I'm paying attention, and I'm making my tables and stuff, my entities, they're all going to be, really, they're going to be at least, I know, Boyce-Codd normal form. I'm pretty confident about that. And you're probably going to end up great, okay? So we're going to talk about what these things are, and you should be thinking of them as, oh, these are things I should be avoiding during my design process. Once you have an entity relationship design, you can look at your entity sets, those tables, those relations, whatever we want to call them, and then you can say to yourself, all right, I know about database design and these levels, these normal forms. Are these tables proper? Are they in Boyce-Codd normal form, which is usually, this is normally abbreviated BCNF. Oh, yeah, I made my tables. They're at least in Boyce-Codd normal form, and just feel you're probably good to go. If you really wanted to, I'm not going to talk about fourth normal form. You could always read it, watch the videos, whatever, and then you could check your tables in that regard and so forth and so on. So you can this is knowledge to use while designing. It's knowledge to use after you have a design to take a look and see, did I make any foolish mistakes? So that's our introduction. What is all of this stuff under the label of? This is all under the label of normalization. So you've got some database, and you're going to make sure that you've normalized all of your tables, which is going through these normal forms. Basically, your goal is to achieve, the higher levels of quality through the process. It's normalization. The actual process we're going to see is through a process of decomposition, where we take a table that is violating one of these rules, and we decompose it. We break it into two tables, and then maybe those tables aren't good, and we break them up, and so forth, until we're like, yes, we no longer have tables that are in violation of these normal forms. Or alternatively, you could just go back to your entity relationship diagram, and you go, yeah, I have something that violates that. I'm going to design this differently. And then you end up with some different entities, different relationships, and then you look again and you go, did I get rid of those problems? And the answer is yes. So sort of the corollary, so to speak, is if you make an entity relationship diagram that seems to be in violation of these nice normal forms, basically the real thing is get back to work on your entity relationship diagram. You've done something that's not quite right. Because if you do it right, you're going to end up with something, according to the textbook, that's probably in fourth normal form. So you could either try to fix it via the normalization process, or you can fix it by going back and figuring out what did you do wrong with your entity relationship design process. All right, that's our introduction to this, and I'll continue in a moment.